Robert Collins froze, coffee mug suspended halfway to his lips. Those 3 words hung in the air between them, transforming the quiet morning office into something entirely different. His boss, Claire Bennett, stood before him with tears glistening in her eyes, not tears of regret or fear, but of quiet hope. What happened next would change both their lives forever, in ways neither of them could have imagined after that one fateful night when they'd stayed late to save the company from disaster. Some moments in life arrive unexpectedly, turning ordinary days into the beginning of extraordinary journeys. This is one such story of connection, courage, and the family we choose. ## a chance encounter. 6 months earlier, Robert had been drowning. Not literally, but in every other sense that mattered. At 34, he found himself a single father to 8-year-old Emma after his wife Sarah's sudden death 2 years prior. The grief had become manageable, most days, but the logistics remained overwhelming. "Daddy, you promised you'd be at my science fair today," Emma reminded him over breakfast, her voice small but accusatory. Robert checked his watch and winced. "Princess, I know. And I'll try, but this presentation for the new client is important." "I know." Emma stabbed at her cereal, eyes downcast. "Everything at work is important." The guilt followed him like a shadow as he dropped Emma at school and headed to Meridian Publishing, where he'd worked as a senior editor for 7 years. The morning passed in a blur of meetings until he found himself face to face with Claire Bennett, the recently appointed publishing director who'd taken over after old man Meridian retired. At 41, Claire had the kind of presence that commanded rooms without raising her voice. Brilliant, driven, and occasionally intimidating, she had transformed the struggling publishing house in just 8 months. The staff respected her, feared her deadlines, but knew little about her personal life. "Collins, I need the Hamilton proposal by 4. "The investors won't wait," she said, barely looking up from her tablet as she passed his desk. "Ms. Bennett, about the science fair this afternoon." She stopped, turning slowly. "Are you telling me the proposal won't be ready?" "No, it'll be ready. I just need to step out for an hour to see my daughter's project. I'll work through lunch and stay late if needed." Something flickered across Claire's face, surprise, perhaps curiosity. "I wasn't aware you had a daughter." "Emma. She's 8. He hesitated. "My wife passed away 2 years ago. It's just us now." Claire's professional mask softened momentarily. "Take the hour, Collins. But I still need that proposal today." "Thank you. You'll have it." That brief exchange was their first real conversation beyond work matters. Robert didn't know then how significant it would become. ## the night that changed everything. 3 months later, disaster struck Meridian Publishing. Their biggest client threatened to pull out after a competitor made a stunning offer. The entire company's future hung in the balance. "Everyone who isn't working on saving the Hamilton account can go home," Claire announced at 5 p.m. "Collins, you're with me." The office emptied quickly, leaving just the two of them surrounded by takeout containers and strategic plans as the night deepened. Robert was surprised to discover a different side to Claire. She was still demanding and precise, but also funny, with a dry wit that emerged as the hours passed. "My babysitter is going to quit," Robert muttered, checking his phone at midnight. "Your daughter, Emma, right? Who's with her now?" Claire asked, pushing aside a stack of papers. "My neighbor Mrs. Patel. She's a saint, but this is the 3rd late night this month." Claire nodded thoughtfully. "Being a single parent in this industry must be nearly impossible." "Some days it is. Most days, actually." The admission slipped out before he could stop it. She studied him for a moment. "Why do you stay?" "Because I'm good at what I do. Because Emma deserves stability. Because starting over terrifies me." He laughed weakly. "Sorry, that was more honest than you were asking for." "No, Claire hesitated, then surprised him. I respect honesty. And for what it's worth, you're more than good at what you do. You're exceptional. Their eyes met across the conference table littered with strategy documents, and something shifted between them, not romance, but understanding. Two dedicated professionals seeing each other clearly for the first time. By 3 a.m., they had crafted a counter-proposal that would save the Hamilton account. As dawn approached, exhausted but triumphant, they shared stories. Claire spoke briefly of her own journey, her divorce 5 years earlier, her struggle to be taken seriously in the publishing world, her postponed personal dreams. I always thought I'd have a family by now, she admitted quietly. But the right timing never came. Timing is overrated, Robert said. Life rarely follows our carefully laid plans. They parted ways as colleagues who had weathered a storm together. Nothing more. Or so they thought. ## unexpected news. 2 months later came the morning that would change everything. I'm pregnant, Claire whispered, standing in the doorway of his office. Robert stared at her, confusion evident. I'm sorry, what? I'm pregnant, she repeated, closing the door behind her. 15 weeks. That's, congratulations, he offered, still bewildered by her choice to share this news with him specifically. Claire sank into the chair across from his desk. I've been seeing someone. It ended 2 months ago when I told him about the pregnancy. He made it very clear he wasn't interested in fatherhood. Robert's confusion deepened. I'm sorry to hear that. But why are you telling me this? Because that night we saved the Hamilton account, you mentioned something that's been echoing in my mind. You said raising Emma alone was sometimes impossible, but you never regretted having her in your life. I don't, he confirmed. I'm 41, Robert. This might be my only chance at motherhood. I've decided to keep the baby, but I'm terrified. Her voice, normally so confident, wavered. The board is already questioning whether I can run this company while pregnant. I have no family nearby, no partner, and no idea how to balance everything. Understanding dawned. You're not looking for advice from a man, you're looking for advice from a single parent. She nodded, relief evident that he understood. Exactly. That conversation marked the beginning of an unexpected friendship. Over the following weeks, Robert found himself sharing the hard-earned wisdom of single parenthood, everything from practical logistics to emotional challenges. Claire, always a quick study, absorbed it all while continuing to lead the company with characteristic brilliance. ## an unexpected proposition. One evening, after a particularly difficult board meeting where Claire's pregnancy had been openly questioned, she invited Robert and Emma to dinner at her home, a modernist apartment with spectacular views but a noticeable absence of warmth. Emma, initially shy around the imposing woman her father spoke of so often, quickly warmed to Claire when she discovered the executive had an impressive collection of science books and a telescope on her balcony. You know all the constellations? Emma asked, wide-eyed. My father was an astronomer, Claire explained. He taught me to find my way by the stars before I learned to read. Later, with Emma absorbed in the telescope, Claire turned to Robert. She's remarkable. She is, he agreed. Just like her mother. You've done an amazing job with her. Claire hesitated. How do you manage the practical aspects? The school pickups, the sick days, the emergencies? Barely, he admitted. It's a patchwork of babysitters, understanding colleagues, and constant guilt that I'm failing at both parenting and work. Claire nodded, then took a deep breath. I've been thinking about solutions for my own situation. I'm considering moving to a house in your neighborhood. Robert raised his eyebrows. That's quite a change from this place. The company's future is secure now, thanks in part to your work. I can afford to step back slightly when the baby comes. But I'll still need help. She met his eyes directly. What would you think about sharing childcare resources? My house has a garden apartment that could be perfect for a live-in nanny who could help with both Emma and my baby. The proposition was unexpected but made practical sense. That's actually brilliant. There's more, Claire continued. I've observed how you struggle with the same challenges I'm about to face. What if we created a more formal arrangement? Not romantically, she clarified quickly, but a partnership of sorts. Shared resources, shared support. You mean like, co-parenting without being a couple? Something like that. A mutual support system. You and Emma would have more stability, and my child would have a male presence in their life. We both know what it's like to face life's biggest challenges alone. The idea was unconventional but oddly compelling. Robert found himself considering it seriously. Emma needs to be part of any decision like this. Of course, Claire agreed. I wouldn't have it any other way. ## building something new. When presented with the idea, Emma had practical questions that made both adults smile. Would we live in the same house? Would the baby be my brother or sister? Would I have to share my toys? They explained carefully, separate living spaces but shared resources and time. Not siblings by blood, but perhaps something like family by choice. And yes, some toy sharing might be involved. Emma considered this seriously. Ms. Bennet seems lonely. And babies need lots of people to love them. That's very true, Robert agreed, surprised by his daughter's insight. I could teach the baby things, Emma decided. Like I do with Jamie at school when he doesn't understand math. And so began an unconventional arrangement. Claire purchased a Victorian home with a garden apartment and a third-floor suite. Robert and Emma moved into the main portion of the house, while Claire took the third floor. They hired Maria, an experienced nanny, to live in the garden apartment and help with childcare. Their colleagues were confused by the arrangement at first, but the practical benefits soon became apparent. Robert could attend important meetings knowing Emma had backup care. Claire could prepare for motherhood with experienced guidance. And Emma, still missing her mother, found unexpected joy in helping prepare for the baby. Do you think the baby will like stars like me, or books like you? She asked Claire one evening as they painted the nursery together. I think this baby will be entirely their own person, Claire answered. That's the wonderful thing about children, they surprise us. Emma nodded sagely. Daddy says I surprise him every day. Claire laughed. I believe that. Robert, watching from the doorway, felt an unexpected warmth. This wasn't the family he had imagined, but it was becoming something meaningful nonetheless. ## the birth. When Claire went into labor 3 weeks early, everything they had carefully planned was tested. Robert rushed her to the hospital while Maria stayed with Emma, who protested being left behind. But I want to meet the baby first, she insisted. You'll meet them soon enough, Robert promised. Hours later, in the sterile hospital room, Claire, always so composed, looked vulnerable and frightened. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered during a particularly difficult contraction. Robert, who had been through this once before, took her hand. You can. You're the most capable person I know. Stay with me, she asked, an unusual request for independence. I'm not going anywhere. After 14 hours of labor, Claire gave birth to a healthy boy with a shock of dark hair and intense eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. He looks like you, Robert observed as the tiny infant was placed in Claire's arms. Poor child, she joked weakly, but her eyes never left her son's face. When Emma was finally allowed to visit, she approached the hospital bed with unusual caution. He's so small, she whispered. Would you like to hold him? Claire asked. You'll need to sit down first. With solemn care, Emma settled into a chair and held out her arms. Robert helped position the newborn, watching his daughter's face transform with wonder. Hello, baby, Emma said softly. I'm Emma. I'm going to help take care of you. Claire caught Robert's eye over the children's heads, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and something that looked remarkably like happiness. "Thank you," she mouthed silently. He nodded, understanding all she meant by those simple words. #growing together. The following months tested their arrangement in ways they hadn't anticipated. Claire, accustomed to control and efficiency, struggled with the unpredictable nature of newborn care. Robert found himself stepping in more than expected, drawing on his experience with Emma. Late one night, he found Claire pacing with the inconsolable baby, tears streaming down her face. "He won't stop crying," she said, voice tight with frustration and exhaustion. "I've tried everything." "Here," Robert offered, taking the tiny boy. "Sometimes they just need a change of arms." The baby's cries gradually subsided as Robert walked and hummed softly, a lullaby he had once sung to Emma. "How do you know what to do?" Claire asked, slumping into a chair. "I don't, most of the time," he admitted. "Parenting is mostly educated guessing and hoping for the best. I'm failing at this." "No," he corrected gently. "You're learning. There's a difference." As the baby finally drifted to sleep, Claire watched Robert with new eyes. "Emma is lucky to have you. And your son is lucky to have you," he replied. "You're exactly the mother he needs, someone who never gives up, even when it's hard." Something shifted between them that night, a deeper respect, a recognition of complementary strengths. They weren't romantically involved, but they were becoming something equally precious, a true partnership. The months passed. The baby, named Thomas after Claire's father, began to thrive. Emma appointed herself his unofficial protector and teacher, reading him stories long before he could understand words. Work arrangements were adjusted, with both adults taking turns working from home. Their unconventional family drew occasional curious looks and questions, but they developed a simple explanation: "We're friends who help each other raise our children." #the proposal. A year after Thomas's birth, as autumn painted the neighborhood in gold and crimson, Claire found Robert on the back porch after the children were asleep. "I've been offered a position in London," she said without preamble. "The international division needs restructuring. It's a 6-month assignment, potentially career-defining." Robert felt an unexpected hollowness. "I see. When would you leave?" "That depends on you, actually." She sat beside him. "The offer includes accommodations large enough for a family. I'm not willing to be separated from Thomas for that long, but I also don't want to disrupt what we've built here." "What are you suggesting?" "Come with me. Both of you." She spoke quickly, as if afraid of his response. "Emma wouldn't miss much school, we could arrange tutoring. Maria is willing to join us. It would be an adventure." Robert stared at her. "You want us to move to London with you?" "Temporarily, yes." She hesitated. Unless you'd consider something more permanent." "More permanent?" Claire took a deep breath. "This past year has shown me something I never expected. We work well together, Robert. Not just at the office, but here, with the children. We've created something valuable." "We have," he agreed cautiously. "I'm not speaking of romance," she clarified. "But of partnership. Of family, chosen family. Emma needs stability. Thomas needs strong role models. You and I both need support." "What exactly are you proposing, Claire?" "That we formalize our arrangement. A commitment to raise our children together, to support each other's careers and goals. A different kind of partnership than most, but no less real." Robert considered her words carefully. "You're essentially proposing we get married for practical reasons?" "Not just practical ones," she corrected. "For emotional ones too. I care deeply about Emma. You care about Thomas. We respect each other. That's more than many marriages start with. People would never understand." "Do they need to?" she challenged. This